Prepared.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Grindexp Beginner Hearthstone class card series. Last week we went over the Mage class cards, and this week we're going to transfer over to the Paladin cards. Now the Paladin cards, when you first glimpse over them, you're going to notice a couple of themes. A couple of cards deal with Divine Shield, others go around healing, others go around direct damage, and there's a lot of cards that deal with buffing your own minions or in some way unbuffing your opponent's minions in one way or another. So it's a very interesting concept. There are a few secrets in there, which I've gone over in the Mage video and the Mechanics video, so you can refer back to those two videos on how secrets actually work. And let's get on to it. So we're going to start with the minions first. Now the minions are a little bit less for the Paladin compared to, say, the Warrior or the Mage that we've gone over, maybe a few other classes, but they are all very unique and have very good strong points to themselves and are relatively balanced within themselves. So the first one is the Elder Peacekeeper. It's a 3/3 for 3. The battle cry effect is changing enemy minions attack to 1. And that's very good for token decks. That's also very good for some aggro decks because it's a lower level minion, so you can get it out and be able to support it with a couple of spells. And you're also changing a few mid to late game minions on your opponent's side of the field attack down to 1. So even though they may have a lot of health, they can't pick off your minions because of just the low attack of just having 1. So it's very good for kind of altering the pace of your opponent's minions and just kind of slowing down the killing of your tokens if you happen to be running that kind of a deck. The second one on the list is Triumph Forbringer, the almighty that he is. So much on that card. Divine Shield, Taunt, Death Rattle, equipping a 5/3 Ashbringer. Now the funny thing is the Ashbringer is almost, well, it is stronger than Tyrion himself, considering that when you think about weapons, it's 5 damage with 3 durability, so it's 15 damage sitting on the field if you or your opponent gets it. So most likely your opponent will try to silence him or get rid of him as fast as they can. So that's why if they know that they're going to get the 15 damage, they're not going to take at least 1 or 2 attacks of his 6, so that's pretty much game-ending damage right there when you calculate it up. So it's a very strong card, very deceptively strong, and if you see it hit the field, silence it as soon as you can, or get rid of it and be ready to heal up if you can do that as well. The third one is the Archer and Protector. Battlecry, give a friend minion Divine Shield. I can't tell you how much fun it is to play around with that card, especially early game to mid game, where you bring a Fairy Dragon out, and then you bring him out, and then put the Divine Shield on the Fairy Dragon, or you put a Divine Shield on a Sinister Shield Master. So not only Sinister Shield Master a good taunt minion for his mana cost. In fact, he's really good for his mana cost to begin with, but now he has Divine Shield on him, so it just becomes that much harder for your opponent to get rid of him. Or to even replace Divine Shields such as Archer Commander or Sunwalker. So it's a very fun card to play with, and just give random thing Divine Shield and just mess around with your opponent. The second to last minion is Guardian of Kings. Now it's a 5/6 for 7 costs, which seems a little bit much, especially for late game minions, but the Battlecry is restore 6 health to your hero, and I've seen many games where dropping 1 or 2 has saved the Paladin because they've used up all the other they've used up all their other healing abilities or spells, and this was the only way they were going to be able to get any kind of healing done. So it's still a good card. When I build my true standard Paladin deck, I'll probably at least put 1 in there, trial fit 2, and just see where we go. And the last one is not so much a minion by itself, it's the Pali's hero ability. And what you do is just 2 mana crystals, just like all the other heroes, and you summon a 1/1 Silverhand Recruit. So that's the last minion that you can quote unquote get onto the field, even if it is through the hero ability. Now with that, we're going to move on to the spells. Now the Paladin, like the Mage, and as we're going to cover in the future, Hunter, has secrets. Now I've covered secrets, like I mentioned before, in the Mage video and the Mechanics video, and those are good references with some up-to-date information on how secrets actually work. I'm not going to cover it again in this video because it's just going to be a little redundant, but I will at least still keep on segregating the secrets out from the rest of the spells just because they act differently. So with that, the first one is Eye for an Eye. Now when this one activates, your hero takes damage and the opposing hero also takes the same amount of damage. So it essentially eye for an eye. Even though you still take the damage, your opponent at least takes that damage too. Great for facing those molten giants if you could time it right, being very careful to watch your opponent's health for that matter, but a lot more useful around mid-game where you could get hit really big, especially with out of nowhere from rogue decks or even shaman decks, depending if they run Bloodluster too. The next one is Repentance. Now this one, when it activates, when your opponent summons a minion, this reduces it down to 1 health. Now this one got a little bit more, I don't know, press, play, noticeability when there's a whole bunch of discussion going around Lord Draxus when he came out, because Lord Draxus is a very cool card, but also a very unique one-off type card in the Warlock deck. So when you summon a minion and reduces out to 1, that also works on Lord Draxus, even though he becomes a minion first and then goes to the hero spot. So kind of tricky, but very good if you time it right, which is kind of the common theme with all the Paladin secrets as far as timing and using them to your advantage. The third secret is Redemption. Basically, whenever one of your minions dies, simply bring it back to life with 1 health. So if for whatever reason you had a minion and its health and attack was reduced by 2, making it say like a 2-1, when you bring it back, it will still have 1 health, but it will be at its full 4 attack. Also, if you bring back anything with any kind of Death Rattle or Divine Shield, they will come back with the Death Rattle, still going to trigger on the next death, or they will have Divine Shield if the card text says Divine Shield. So all that stuff will renew, so you don't have to really worry about that either. And lastly, we have Noble Sacrifice. Now, Noble Sacrifice is a killer secret. If you had to run any one of these in a Paladin deck, I would say Noble Sacrifice above else, because it's not so much for the redirecting of an attack, it's the fact that you summon a 2-1, and in early to mid game, that 2 attack against an opponent minion is enough, most likely, to kill him, because in the beta patch, quote unquote beta patch as it was dubbed 2.5 months ago, when there was a whole bunch of alpha card changes, the shift was from health heavy to attack heavy. So a lot of the cards that were 3 or 4 health shifted down to 2 or 3 health. So Noble Sacrifice by itself can kill off cards, not requiring a minion or additional spells. And since all the Pally secrets are 1 cost by themselves, it's a pretty cheap way of getting rid of opponent's minion on the field. Now the next set of spells, these 4, are revolve around the theme of buffing. Buffing your minions, making them stronger, Hulk Smash. Now, the first one is Blessing of Kings. This is the bigger, badder version of some of the other ones, which is giving a minion +4 attack and health. Very strong for the mid-game, since it is in itself a mid-game card. So figure around turn 6, summon a Argent Commander, attack with it because it has charge. Next turn, make it a much bigger and beefier card attacking with, and if it has Divine Shield on it, that's going to be a powerhouse on top of whatever else you're doing with other spells to help support it. Now the lesser version of it, Blessing of Might, is the much cheaper and actually much better mana cost to what you get for it, because it's a 1 mana cost, but you get +3 attack out of it. So for your rush decks or your early game decks, this is the much better alternative on all accounts. The third one is Blessed Champion, simply double the minion's attack. Now you can think, okay, if I have, let's just say, Ascendant Shield Master, and it took a hit of 3, so now it's a 3/2. You put a Blessing of Might on it, now it's a 6/2. You double the minion's attack, now it's a 12/2. And this could essentially all be done on turn 6. So this engine's on there, and it has the taunt, even though it can't take that much more damage. If you have the next card, which is Hand Protection, give a minion Divine Shield, it doesn't matter if it has the 2 attack, it has Divine Shield. It can take whatever damage it wants at least once, and then you have to start worrying about the 2 damage again. So you can play all these cards in variances on what I would suggest token decks or lower rush decks with lower cost minions, because some of them do cost quite a bit and you have to wait. But these are all very good ways of just pumping up your already current minions instead of having to rely on the later game minions and everything that you have to deal with at that particular point in the game. Now moving on to the next set is the theme of manipulating your opponent's minions attack, or however you want to feel about it, or just direct damage in its varied amounts of ways. The first one on there is Equality. Change all minions, your opponent's and yours, to 1. Now this seems very bad and tragic almost, but when you can use it in conjunction with Wild Pyromancer, or as we get down to it, Consecration, it actually is a very strong card for relatively cheap cost and can help you in certain clutch situations. Humility, change a minion's attack to 1. Now this is the low cost version of what the Aldor Peacekeeper does, except this is a spell card, while the Aldor Peacekeeper is a 3/3 for 3 cost body that does the same exact thing. That's why if you're probably going to go for this, probably want to go for the body minion versus the spell card, unless you're doing something else with your minions that the humility can fit in your spells because you are tweaking your minions one way or another, however you want to do it. The third one is Holy Wrath. Draw a card and deal damage equal to its cost. Now this is probably one of the most random gambling type cards that you can play in the game, because it costs 5, so you want to try to get at least 5 damage out of it to break even. But you're also drawing a card, so okay, even if the drawing a card was worth 2 mana crystals, then you at least want to get 3 damage out of it. So you have to be pretty secure that when you play, you know what's left in your deck, and you know you're going to do a decent amount of damage. Otherwise, it's pretty much a gamble, and it's going to be a little mana crystal inefficient. But hey, you at least get to draw an extra card. Sometimes draw power can trump even the 5 mana cost and getting maybe 1 or 2 damage. Who knows? The fourth one is Hammer Wrath. Deal 3 damage, draw a card. Now, deal 3 damage, draw a card. Comparing it to Holy Wrath, which is 5, and Unknown for 4, which is a 1 mana cost cheaper, deal 3 damage, so you know your mana cost, and you get to draw a card. So that's why when you see a lot of Pally decks, you'll see a lot of them run Hammer Wrath, but you won't see any Holy Wrath unless they're going that far into the direct damage as far as spells are concerned. Now the second to last one in this set is Consecration. Deal 2 damage to all enemies. Now this applies to your opponent's enemy's minions and the hero itself. So you get to deal 2 damage to the enemy hero plus all the minions there. And as I said in the beginning of this set, with Equality, you are sure to slaughter everything and get the 2 damage. So it's basically a 2 cost card wipe for 6 mana cost. Not that bad. Cheaper than Twisting Nether, which is an 8 cost for the Warlock, and you get to keep your minions in the end, even if they do all have 1 health. And the last one is Avenging Wrath. Avenging Wrath, when you think about it, since we did the Mage class card overview, think of it as like almost 3 arcane missiles put into 1 card, and it costs 6 mana crystals to play. They'll shatter, they'll go all over the place, they can hit the enemy's minions, or they can hit the hero, it's all random. Basically, you want to try to play this card when your opponent maybe has 1-2 minions tops, so that's why you're trying to get the missiles to hit the enemy hero, but it would be nice if it could clear away 1 or 2 of the minions at the same time, or at least make them low enough that you could ram your Silverhand Recruit into 1, do a little trade, and gain board advantage and do a little damage directly to the opposing hero itself. Now the last set of spell cards here, as kind of happens with all the classes, there's a little bit of a remainder of spell cards. Now the first 2 deal with healing and the other 2 kind of deal with draw power, so I just kind of lumped them in together. Now the first one is Holy Light, restore 6 health, clean, basic, a lot of health for the mana cost, basically getting 3 times almost at that point. So very simple, get 6 health. I always run 2, there's no real reason not to. Moving on to the next one, Lay on Hands, restore 8 health, so it's even with the mana crystal cost of 8, so it's 8 for 8, but the draw power of draw 3 cards makes it almost automatic for at least 1, but since it's so high on the mana crystal cost, you're basically giving up your entire turn just to draw cards, so having 2 may be a little excessive, which is unfortunate because it's an awesome card for the effect. It's just so heavy on the cost. But hey, at least try at least 1, maybe 2 if you're that willing, and go from there. Try it out, say I like it. The third one is Divine Favor. Again, has a little bit, it deals all the draw power, except it deals with your opponent. So you draw as many cards as your opponent has, and just so you know, this is the way we've been playing, and we think pretty much the way it is going to be played in the game. When you play it, it no longer becomes your hand. So even if your opponent has 6 cards and you have 6 cards and you want to play it, you'll at least still draw 1. So it's not that bad. But of course, you always want to play it in the situation where your opponent has 7, 8, 9, 10 cards and you have 3. And then you play it, you get to draw 8 cards. Basically, you refresh your hand, gain all these possibilities. Really cool thing to do. And then the last one is Blessing of Wisdom. Choose a minion whenever it attacks, draw a card. Now, I've played around with this card. I haven't really done too many serious things with it, but the fun thing to do with it is actually attach it to your enemy's minions, especially a high attacking one, and make them pay literally and drawing you a card for actually attacking with their minion. It's a very different way of viewing the card, and it's a very different outlook than you would normally think, but it makes your opponent think, okay, I want to attack, do like 3 damage, but is it worth giving my opponent a card over it? So you can actually stall some attacks depending on how your opponent is thinking and what they have in their hand at the time. So I'll leave it with that, and that pretty much sums up all the spell cards. So with that, we're going to move over to the Paladin weapons. Now the weapons are very focused around the minions and around just the pally gist that you've seen so far. The first one, Life's Justice, basic weapon. It's a 1 cost for 1 attack, yet 4 durability. So if you get it out in the beginning, it's good for just picking off little things here and there, low minions, or if you happen to be facing another paladin, you can pick off other divine shields or whatever you need to do, or finish off just any minion that has 1 health left. Remember, equality, you gotta say more. The second one, which is Sword of Justice. Whenever you summon a minion, give it a +1/+1, and this loses 1 durability. So this sword is not something that you pretty much use as a weapon, but you use it as almost a buffing tool. It's not a weapon, it's a buffing tool. So we're going to call it the Tool of Justice instead of the Sword of Justice, I guess, from this point on. And it's very good because it lasts 5 minions. So even with your Paladin hero ability of summoning a Silverhand Recruit every turn, you can get through at least 3 silver hand recruits, making them 2/2s, which is much bigger difference comparing it to a 1/1, and still have 2 other minions in the flux for a total of 5 before the sword goes away. So very cool card. I've yet to really play seriously with it, but I've begun to see other paladins play with it and just feel it's a cool card for the right type of deck that you can put it with. The third one, which is True Silver Champion, it's a whenever hero attacks, restore 2 health to it. Now where the Sword of Justice was kind of like the tool of justice, the True Silver Champion could kind of be like the healing champion because of its restore 2 health to whenever you attack. And it also helps your hero attack, kind of like the Hero Druid ability, which gives you +1 attack, +1 armor. It kind of deadens any kind of back damage you would be taking. So if anything has 2 or less damage, your hero would not be taking any damage at all. So feel free to swing away and kill something with anything, because it has a 4 attack on it, which is pretty substantial at that cost, plus the healing. And the last one we touched on in the minions is Ashbringer itself. Now you actually get to see what the Ashbringer looks like in card form. It's, like we said, it's not a 5 cost. You can't actually play Ashbringer by itself. It has to come through trying, forwarding, actually dying. But it's, again, 5 attack, 3 durability, 15 damage on the field. You want to run away from that, or hope that you have in the 6 Swamp Ooze or a Harrison Jones just to eat it up ASAP, or start healing someone, or start killing the hero and put pressure on them. Otherwise, the game timer is pretty much started on you at that point. So that's all the weapons, and then we're going to move on to the deck concepts. Now, the first deck concept, as you're seeing, it revolves around primarily Divine Shield and some taunt with the Youth of Brewmaster at the end there to help resummon damaged minions, or those Divine Shielded minions that were picked off, and you want to get them back on the field with the Divine Shield to lengthen out your opponent's time and resources to get them off the field and do your damage. Now, the spell cards that are down there, there's a lot that I could have put down there, but I only could really afford to put down these 4. Basic buffing, Blessing of Might, give a minion +3 attack. Again, the very cheap version, put it on the Archer Commander, the Sunwalker, even the Sun Shield Master. If you are Archer Protector, give a Divine Shield. Makes them all big, beefy attackers, and they're incredibly hard to kill compared to just a regular minion. And they're helped to be protected by like the Noble Sacrifice, and if they do happen to die, redemption there, that carry them back on the field, bring them back with the charge, with the Divine Shield, or the taunt, whatever they may have, and just make your opponent quite uncle. And then out of all the weapons, I figured the True Silver Champion was the best one to put in there, because you would want to help destroy opposing minions and also gain health at the same time, allowing your minions to stay longer on the field, again exhausting your opponent's resources, making them use more cards, eventually getting them down to little or no hand at that particular point. Now, the second deck concept, you're going to see a couple of cards that were remaining, because I felt that they could fit in this deck concept as well as the other one. But whereas the other one wears Divine Shield and kind of bringing it back with the Divine Shield just being general annoyance, this deck concept is a little bit more straightforward with some taunt, more aggro based, with the Hogger there generating nulls that have taunt, using your hero ability pretty much every turn you can to get a Silver Hand Recruit out there, and the Outdoor Peacekeeper reducing opponents' minions attack by 1, so they can't easily pick off your tokens or your low-cost minions. Imp Master is another great card you can put in here as far as generating other minions to attack with, and the Archer Protector is always a great low-cost minion by itself and helping protect your tokens on the field, just so they stay out there longer and they can do what they need to do, attacking directly. And as we went over before, Blessing of Might, great low-cost cheap card, making any of your minions pretty substantial attackers for relatively low cost. the redemption, noble sacrifice, using those to bring back your token generators or just misdirecting attacks from your opponent. And then lastly, switch out the True Silver Champion for the Sword of Justice because you would want your tokens and or low cost minions to be buffed as much as possible. So having the Sword of Justice out there, or Tool of Justice, as I'm going to dub it, helps buff them up. As soon as you summon them, you don't have to worry about playing another card. It's already out there, and it lasts, again, 5 turns, and you have 2 of them. So you basically have 10 turns of, or 10 minions worth of buffing with those 2 if you happen to run them. And with that, those are the 2 deck concepts and the Paladin Class card overview itself. I hope you enjoyed this little overview. It was a little shorter than I thought it was going to be, and also compared to the other one. I also hope that you're enjoying this series and you're learning a little bit more each time you happen to view these things, and just enjoy whatever we're doing here at the Grindexp. So the next one will probably be delayed by 2 weeks because I'm going on a slightly long weekend vacation. I don't know what the next one is going to be as far as class, so if you would like to recommend of the remaining 6 that I need to do, just say Hunter, Warrior, leave it in the comments below and just let me know which one you would like to see, and I'll see how fast I can scrap it up. Maybe I'll try to do one as soon as I get back, which would be a lot of work, but hey, it's worth it if people are viewing and enjoying. And that pretty much does it. So as always, like, comment, subscribe, and onwards to beta, hopefully closer than and sooner than we think. Have a good night, folks.